I'd love to welcome everybody back to the Independent Investor channel. Right on time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for the live stream this evening. Making money. It's elusive. It eludes a lot of people. It really does. I was just going back through some of the statistics on the channel, and we've been doing YouTube for about 5 years plus anyway. The whole intent was to start this project, share a specific testimonial, that being mine, a philosophy that I had about markets. You know what I find interesting is that everybody thinks that they've got the philosophy that actually is the one. It is the one. And the idea is to sell you on that idea that singular perspective and approach to stock market investing is the one that can be duplicated and scaled to the masses in such a capacity to suggest that you can beat the market too. If everybody out there was seeking out the goal of beating the market, we would have significantly much more failure rate than we do now. I would contend that regular investors do everything they can possibly do to talk them off of fundamental investing at every turn. They buy into those tempting and alluring types of philosophies that are rampant now on social media. That is the society we live in. If you want to catch a really good piece of content, watch the Berkshire Hathaway annual call. I highly recommend catching that on CNBC. It was a replay of the entire address by both Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. They had on the panel as well, I believe, their VP, as well as the CEO of Geico, I believe, was on there as well to assist in that. But you will learn a lot about the philosophies about investing in the right way. You don't have to listen to me. I'm a complete and utter nobody on YouTube, which is absolutely fantastic. See, I'm laughing in the back of my head because my philosophy about stock market investing, it works. But my idea and my approach is not to come onto YouTube and profess that you follow my way. No, it's actually the opposite. The idea in my philosophy is to bring awareness to the power of building wealth in the stock market, to pointing out the fundamentals in life that can help augment a good portfolio strategy or wealth building strategy in general. What are those elements of life that can help really accelerate your wealth growth? Elements like real estate, elements like seeking out a profession. I know I saw Rebecca in the group here in the gallery here. She's a Viper, has been with the channel for a long time, and there she is saying hi to everybody. She's just nice like that, but carries with it a profession that would fit into this category of educating yourself and being able to provide a skill that you can be compensated for, and that skill is a necessary back to society. In other words, are you contributing something to the greater good? Okay, and as cliche as that might sound, might make a lot of sense when you look at what is being contributed to the greater good now in society, in that it's not really the contributions to the greater good, rather how many people you can dupe into realizing that they've got all the answers and you don't. The sheer fact of the matter is most everybody is trying to get ahead, trying to earn an honest living, trying to hustle where they can. I think for people who pay attention and they want to have a little bit of motivation of even understanding what I bring to the table on the Independent Investor channel, if you are questioning what it is that is my side hustle, this is it. I'm kind of more of a take it or leave it type of fella, because I do have opportunity in a lot of different capacities. I heard Warren Buffett say, if you want to just really win at life, find the right spouse. Resonated with me because I have done that. And it makes everything else really put into perspective. It allows me not to be so consumed with the ups and downs in the stock market. I don't jump up and down when the stock market goes up. I don't sing for the high heavens. I don't rejoice to the good Lord that He has bestowed upon me dividend renderings or call contracts or put contracts that have paid me some money. I think that's rather shallow and quite frankly kind of pathetic, to be honest with you. I'd like to strike at a deeper meaning here on the channel to understand that it's really not about me. I do share my successes. I will share that this evening. I looked at the portfolio, which I haven't done the reviews on the live stream for quite some time. I'm okay with that. The market has just been kind of horrific over the last couple of years. It's been a weathering exercise, which is fine for me. It's given me an opportunity to focus in on other things, and we've lost some subscribers to the channel, which is awesome. Good riddance. I don't want you on the channel if you don't want to be here, because I call into rigor the importance of personal application. Okay. In other words, I'm not going to yell and scream at you. I'm not going to pull my boob out and start sucking on it for you. All right. I'm not going to yell and scream at you. I'm not giving you the shock factor. I do not believe that all investors need to just buy VT and be happy with that. I think there's a little bit more, as a matter of fact, a lot more that I demand of people in understanding how dynamic life can be if you are just willing to take a shot. It came up in the Berkshire Hathaway call just this evening, which I've watched about half of it, I guess. And they were talking about Benjamin Graham, and who, for you guys that don't know, authored The Intelligent Investor. First edition was released in 1949. And a lot of the tried and true investing fundamentals that were identified in The Intelligent Investor are prudent today, and it is one of the best-selling investing books of all time. Warren Buffett talked about how important Benjamin Graham was to him and his counsel, but Charlie Munger added a different twist to it, as he usually does, as he chomping on butter crunch or whatever the hell he eats during those calls. I thought it was pretty cool. But he offered that in the version 5, there's been multiple versions. I think they're coming out with version 5, actually, iteration 5 of The Intelligent Investor here shortly, which they're wonderful. In one of the iterations, Charlie Munger talks about Benjamin Graham's admittance to half of his wealth actually being generated by one hyper growth stock that he got invested in and hit big. The rest of the wealth was generated from sound investments in the capacity that he discusses within the course of The Intelligent Investor. I thought this was really prudent, and it speaks to what I think a lot of people have in way of a kind of a stigma or an idea about Benjamin Graham just speaking about value investing being the only way, when ironically he too was one of those that was willing to take a shot and does in fact talk about minimizing those poor investments in our life, but also at the same point even scrutinizing that very trade so that the audience could understand that it was a thing in time that happened to him. He does acknowledge that, yeah, on paper, that did constitute or contribute to a lot of the man's wealth, to the tune of half. But also to scrutinize the trade from the perspective of being intelligently critical, I think is what Warren Buffett said, on his own evaluation and what he looked at to make sense of the trade, where a lot of people didn't make sense of that same trade, and how it was on the precipice of actually not happening. I believe he was talking about Geico at the inception of Geico, and the deal that made that all possible in the very inception, and that by taking that chance on the onset, set themselves up for that grand wealth that was generated into the future. And that wealth could have not ever been realized had it not been for that deal actually coming to fruition. But it was really cool to hear Warren Buffett's take on how critical Benjamin Graham was on that personal trade of his. I think for what it means for everybody out there, I think it speaks to not limiting your capability. For me, I think of Hyliion. I think of what it means to me. Now, whether or not it materializes into anything special or anything material, I like to think of the industry moving in this direction. I like to think of the solution being Hyliion, being a solution that can be brought to the rigor of mainstream and actually catching footage. Whereas right now, people look at it and they're like, "Man, it's crazy. Like you're not a good investor because in the acute, I look at it in the acute and it's not performing well, right?" And I think to the point I'm making about risk taking and analyzing the level of risk to reward, I think the maximum risk to reward right now in a particular trade like that, for example, couldn't be more apparent to an investor like myself who is looking at the future in just a couple of short years and identifying a potential catalyst for the name and maybe having that life-changing type of wealth. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's going to happen. I believe that it will. And when it does, I'm going to give you guys a very, very interesting perspective on how that is not to be followed, not to be templated and sold to the masses. It just speaks to my insistence that those opportunities are out there. Those opportunities can lead to downfall. They can lead to opportunity. Okay, the sheer reality of it is that if you are unwilling to take those risks in life, right, you are almost guaranteeing yourself a life of mediocrity when it comes to investing. I'm not here to judge, guys, but I am here to tell you that a bottom line fundamental philosophy about stock market investing is that if you're going to make some money in the stock market, at some point you're going to have to put some capital to risk. All right. Unless you guys have figured out how to invest in the stock market without putting anything to risk and making money without putting any type of capital to risk, I'd like to understand that. But if we can just agree that there is some level of risk that has to be put on the table to actually generate some of that wealth that we talk about seeking, then we're understanding each other and where we're coming from significantly more. Shout out to Andreas. Thank you for tuning in. It's got to be late there, my brother, but appreciate you taking the time. I'm probably thinking about maybe instituting, if we can get a little bit of momentum, I guess, started. And I again, I kind of thought that this was going to happen. If I had to wager, I said it in my post Q1 reaction video that I felt like this was going to happen. I just think that the market right now is not showing a whole lot of favor to these types of opportunities, and that's totally fine. What is typically the most prudent thing to do when you have conviction on a name like this is to continue to wait it out. I mean, I look at the other two, which I think are probably struggling a little bit more. Stock prices obviously recessed a little bit more. But Hyliion and 𝑪𝑎𝑛𝓋𝑎, interesting enough, really are kind of attractive. If you could just own the entire space and own all three of these companies, it might not be the worst idea here, but full on invested still in my conviction holding. It's kind of disappointing to see the good news fall on deaf ears with both of my high conviction, high speculative growth companies. And who's to suggest that that isn't going to persist with both Aduro Clean Technologies and Hyliion Holdings? Those are kind of my conviction buys right now in the growth category. And you guys might think, well, I'm buying growth stocks every day. I'm not. A lot of the money that I've invested thus far this year in 2023, I'm super glad that I bought the NASDAQ when I did. I bought all of the big technology names, put some pretty big positions to work in both Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Apple. Meta, I've owned all the way through this downturn, and I didn't add any to it. I just owned it through the downturn, and it's approaching the high price that I bought it for. So just kind of proven that a little bit of patience can actually pay off a little bit. I was thinking about this idea with regard to patience, and I'm almost looking to graduate to a better place in understanding that maybe it's not patience that is necessary in the stock market. If I'm going to be patient, I'm going to be patient with my kids. I'm going to be patient about an opportunity at work. I'm going to be patient with, certain things that may affect me that would have just normally maybe upset me. Maybe patience is the right application. I'm not really sure if stock market investing. I'm not really sure if patience is the right attribute to apply. I'm not really sure. I've been doing this a long, long time, and it's of interest to me what recipe I can share with people that actually works in stock market investing. I can certainly share this evening what it is that I feel like works, and that's continually funding markets, to diversify markets, to seek out quality through dividends, to seek out your employer sponsored, either 401k or something like that. Might be prudent for you to start small in a diversified ETF or index fund that is low cost. Those are some of the things that have really, really helped me. I see here Freeman's in the house here, man. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send Freeman an invite. I don't know if Freeman's got the evening off, but I don't know if he'd want to come on and rap with the Independent Investor channel. Be kind of fun tonight, man. If not, I'll continue to rock it out myself. But there it is, Freeman. There's an invite for you, brother. You've never been on the channel. We missed you that night that we were throwing down. That was pretty cool. But yeah, it's really cool to see everybody and reach out and kind of connect the dots from a network perspective. But I'm having a kind of a tough time because I'm a very real, what I see on the 𝑪𝑎𝑛𝓋𝐼 camp and even what I see on the Hyliion camp both kind of disturbs me. Tesla, same thing, in that they're not seeing what I'm seeing. And they're making up stuff that I think doesn't really need to be infused into the current situation. There's some real concerns right here. There really are. And I think it is exacerbated by the nature by which these companies came to public markets as well, without being subject to some of the early scrutiny that some of the IPO market would demand in way of transparency before these companies were even introduced to financial markets. And I get all kinds of comments through the channel, and there was one to suggest that all current shareholders in Hyliion will be completely wiped out, and that Thomas Healy will survive, and that he'll ride on with his SPAC-funded sales of millions of shares, and that Hyliion, being that it's such a good idea, will move on and be bought up by another company when it hits $1 a share. That takes some imagination, that's for sure. I'd like to think we live in a society that's a little bit more honest than that. But my trust with this company has digressed, that's for sure. It's really been broken. I just think that they're shifting and they're playing ping pong amongst their product portfolio in a manner that would suggest to me that they don't even really know, that they're willing to kind of pounce on whatever the market makes available in what I would admit to be a very, very lean market at this particular juncture. I get it, I do, but I don't sense a clear direction anymore. And I sense that because the weakness in the stock price has driven it so far down, that companies are potentially somewhat hesitant to fly the flag of a company that can't keep a $2 stock price. And I think that's very real. I think for Thomas Healy to actually acknowledge the weakness in the stock here is probably way too little, too late. When it sunk below the $10 mark, that's when the emergency bell started to go off for me. And quite frankly, I thought that should have been the time where instead of putting his foot on the accelerator and telling everybody that it's okay, which I'm here to tell you it's not. It's not okay. It's not okay to have the stock price this low. It's not. I can tell you basically everything that I am seeing with the company itself is fine. It is where it is in the eyes of myself and the market. And the current stock price reflects where it is currently, burning a shit ton of capital, and really not producing anything to backfill. The question that I have is, where are those supplemental dollars going to actually come from? And when are those supplemental dollars going to be made available in some level of material value to help cover capex? That's really the question. And I don't know. I would be an interesting cat to put in the room here to question what is going to be addressed at this investor presentation here. I quite frankly think they should be somewhat embarrassed by the performance thus far, because it's been nothing less than embarrassing. It's been totally horrendous, to be honest with you. Yeah, so I see a comment that popped in here. He's asking for my comment. I'm happy to get it. I did not know Toyota recently got CARB approval. It doesn't surprise me a bit. And that's the thing, is where there might have been a perception of first mover advantage with Hyliion, as good as their idea is competition is going to be out there. And Silent Alert did a good job of talking about the basic minimum of units that need to be sold. I'm a little bit more robust on thinking that it's about 4,500. He seems to think, and this might have something to do with my number needing adjustment based on the earlier projections on the MSRP, because his MSRP was around $400,000. So he's not far off with the 3,000 projection to meet muster. But when we're talking about, competition out there in the landscape, and we're talking about only so many OEM slots, it begs that question of when and how and in what capacity the OEMs are going to be available for this company. It's just really unclear to me, based on the information that I read, I interpret, and I'm giving you my best guess as to where we are right now. And that I have a lot more questions than I do clarity at this particular juncture, in a time where, after 3 years of public markets, I honestly think we should have a very, very crystal clear road on how we're going to make sense of this whole thing, and how they could become a little bit more nimble, which was an admirable goal. But there is just as much, if not more, confusion as to what slowing down the current burn rate is going to do for Hyliion going forward, and when and if this market actually ever does kind of let up. When that does end up letting up, how it's going to affect the bottom line. But this is to be expected. I think competition is to be expected. I saw Walmart is taking on the 15-liter Cummins engine in a project that was previously owned by 𝗋𝑎, who absolutely fell on their face. Now, as a biased shareholder, I'd like to see the Hypertruck ERX put through the rigor by Walmart, because I think it's a superior product, but that's not the direction that they chose to go. It's really yet to be seen what type of opportunities are going to be made by these fleets that are going to be mandated through the ACF mandates that are coming through, that require these fleets to actually play ball. And if they're not choosing to play ball, it's going to be dirty. They are going to choose to play ball. The question is going to be what options they choose to meet the mandates that are being placed on the fleets and the OEMs. Where Hyliion finds their place in that charge is going to be of interest to me, and I'll be there for the show. There's no doubt about it. But I did tweet tonight that it's a horrible position to be in as far as an investor. I'll never do it again. Never, never. If this is going to be an investment of a lifetime, so be it. If it's not, so be it. I can deal with it either way. I will be there in the end, one way or the other. But this is not a position of strength at all. Churning discussion in a Discord group that I support wholeheartedly. Andreas does a fantastic job. It is still the best information that can be available on Hyliion. I'm just here to tell you it's really lean right now. There's not a lot. I mean, we can try to figure out the Carno and understand how it works, and debate back and forth, and in some cases get into a heated argument to boost our testosterone, or boost our attitude about what we think we hold. But in the end, Hyliion really has to come through with and deliver on what it is that they at some point saw themselves penetrating a Class 8 market that right now I'm more confused as compared to what I was 3 years ago. I'm more confused now as to how they see that level of penetration. I mean, they're taking 30 orders this year when they projected what I think they projected hundreds of orders, if not thousands of orders this year in 2023, and they're repurposing and reconditioning the 30 that they have because the build slots just aren't there. The interest is just not there. They're spreading out the interest, hoping that those products actually catch fire in the industry. I hope so too. But at the end of the day, the product has to perform, and that's been the requirement 3 years ago. It will continue to be the requirement, and if they cannot prove to the industry that they have a product that they can actually put to the rigor of Class 8, then this project will absolutely be for naught. But I thought the call was interesting. I recommend that you guys go on and try to catch that. Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, Charlie Munger address to shareholders. Thought it was fantastic. It actually made me feel really, really good about where my philosophies are on stock market, where we've been, where we're going, what we're teaching upon here, because I'm not all rah rah about what I do. I'm a little bit more rah rah about what I teach, if in fact that can go out to the masses and we can actually get some reciprocation to understand that that rah rah actually works for people out there, no matter what their income level, no matter what skin color or gender they are. Money is a funny thing. It's often suggested that money is the root of all evil. I beg to differ. Money is just money. In its rudimentary sense, it's a piece of paper. It backs our acknowledgement to and confidence in the spending power of that dollar. And that's really it. You can put that dollar to work in a lot of capacities. You can spend that dollar to be lost forever for the satisfaction that you get on buying certain products with that dollar. And dollars can take on a number of different forms. We just teach upon maximizing those forms of appreciation while reducing the effects of fees over those same dollars that you want to be working hard for you while you're out doing what it is that you're doing on your own time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the live stream here. Really appreciate you guys. I'll take a short break and be back with you in just a moment. Says I can't find the stock. I think this is part of the problem, actually. I buy the stock on Interactive Brokers. I think there's been some folks that have actually had some luck on Charles Schwab, but you've got to call them. I can't even get the stock to register within the ledger. ACTHF is the ticker symbol for Clean Technologies, which is doing great. Their options opportunity from 2001, their initial units plus warrant expired May 17th, which is why we got that short pop in the stock here. I'm not looking for anything too material over the short term, but I do have high hopes for this company. But I use Interactive Brokers of all things, and Interactive Brokers is no joke. Okay, it's no Robinhood. It's a serious platform. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. I had to actually do a self-acknowledgement to trade, in this case, OTC or pink sheet types of equities. So you have to be a little bit savvy, okay? And I'm not aware outside of what I understand. Now, this is not validated by me or endorsed, but both Fidelity and TD Ameritrade. If you guys are using those and do own Clean Technology through those brokers, I think that's a problem. I don't understand. Kind of frustrating. I brought that to my group, my network last fall, and they do also understand it. I think there's a lot of major brokers that will pick up on the stock when it's a lot higher market cap than right now. I think it sits at about 45 million US. close to 50 million, probably closer to 45 now with the latest couple point digression in the stock. But yeah, that's the best I can tell you. I have bought the stock. I bought 2,500 more shares the beginning of this week. That was the only purchase that I made of any consequence, I believe. It's just the one that made the most sense. And I got that at an entry of about 0.64. So it's about 64 cents on the entry there on Enduro Clean Technologies. Super happy to own those shares. Great to own a nice block of it. That's a management I can get behind. I've actually talked to the CEO many, many times. I find it ironic how I've talked to the CEO. I haven't met him in person, but he was just unavailable. He was at his daughter's soccer game or something, but he was going to make himself available to actually shake my hand and thank me for all the good work on the company. I can't even get a retweet from Thomas Healy, and I'm not really sure if I understand enough to separate, because it's a $300 million company burning cash like a mofo. Why I can't, or anybody else for that matter. I mean, Silent Alert, I give him more credit than anybody, to actually try to get some reciprocation on Twitter that's just not there. It's just not there. And I don't expect to get an answer. I don't 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 think for a second I have an arrogance problem, like I should be able to banter back and forth with the almighty great CEO Thomas Healy. But I will remind you that I rap with CEOs every single week on the channel. I had an interview today canceled with one CEO, and I've got two scheduled next week. So uh, that's the whole idea behind YouTube, is bringing people closer to what has been a very elusive type of thing. Now, where they were quick to take SPAC dollars funded by, the institutions and the retail investors that funded that project, I think the least they could do is be a little bit more transparent online. But hey, who am I? Who am I to judge? Hmm. Who am I to judge, kids? Very cool stuff. Says I'll continue to be aggressive and pushing for more transparency. We need this from the folks going down Freeman to Austin. I'm afraid that there's going to be some hesitation to challenge Hyliion and Thomas Healy. See, I take a lot of grief, and there's a lot of people on there that just do this a lot. They just do this a lot. That's all they do. They think I'm being unprofessional. They think I'm being rude. They think I'm being too scathing. They think I'm being Hank, right? Too often. And I often take some scrutiny, and it's like, I'm a share owner. I can have as much scrutiny or as much positivity. Some of the things might be considered, even to my own metric, overblown. But my baseline merit for challenging the company at this point is right on the money. They deserve to be scrutinized. They have not earned, at least over the last couple of months here, they just have lost a lot of credibility regurgitating old information because they don't have new information to provide. Freeman, if they did, they would provide that. And I think we need to be a little bit more challenging at this point. Look, if they're going to make it, great. That's great. But if they're not gonna provide any transparency because they don't have any interest in the product, I think they should just pull chocks now and just shut the doors, shut down the business, give all the SPAC money back to the investors, whatever's left, whatever, and just go on and start another project, because this is just not happening. It's just not working. There's no transparency to investors. And Thomas Healy and the board of directors are probably sitting there saying, yeah, we've got all this stuff right here. We're behind the scenes. They just don't know how to share it, or they feel like the time is not there to share that information. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's absolutely nothing going on at Hyliion, and we all generate this churn around this really, really good idea that really is in the it hasn't even started on its commercial launch. I mean, this is supposed to be, they have got some audacity by putting a hat out there that says 2023 ERX launch. They've got some audacity. No kidding. We're making 30. We're selling, giving people hats to celebrate some monumental achievement in filling the first 30. Now maybe that generates some churn. Maybe, I don't know. I just, Man, I'm really hungry for information, and I don't feel like we're being provided very much information as a share owner. That's just my 2 cents, Freeman. But we can go, and the OEMs, we can go nowhere without them. Yeah, I mean, you've heard me say that, and it's not rocket science, man. I'm not trying to be rude here, all right? But Hyliion's not an OEM, and they need the assistance of that OEM. And there's been some scrutiny over this, and until it comes to fruition, then it's not real until it does. All right. Dave says he found it on Fidelity. So very cool stuff. He's got 1,000 shares. Happy with that amount and learning more about the company. So cool stuff, David. Good luck with those shares. Very cool stuff. So Fidelity, that's probably your best option, I think, to go ahead and purchase the shares, because I do not recommend Interactive Broker to the faint of heart. It's a whore. It's not user friendly. It's not just start up Robinhood and you're investing 5 minutes, because it's like a cartoon. It's not like that. It's very, very serious, very technically advanced. The site keys that you have to get into it. It is possible, guys. I'm just telling you, that's what I use. And I think I'd probably opt to go with the Fidelity or the TD Ameritrade, but I can't confirm. And Dave's helped us confirm that you can actually use Fidelity for the purchase of Aduro shares. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that, man. hmm Yeah, I think, by laying it out straight, I don't want to be misconstrued as a negative Nancy. All right. If you want to know where my loyalty lies, just look at my share position. Okay. I've added shares in the low ones. I don't want to see it go back there. This has been an absolute drag. It's been an absolute drag. Nothing to be excited about. I mean, if this thing goes to 4 or 5, I know the Discord community is just going to be overjoyed with rum punch, and it's going to be flowing out of your iPhone because you're in the Discord group. I get it. I'm not going to be surprised or happy when it hits 4 or 5 either, because that's like halfway back to their IPO price. You know, these guys have got a long, long way to go, and if they're not careful, they're going to get delisted, and we're going to end up holding an OTC QB stock, and not a company that's traded on the New York Stock Exchange. As happy as they are, right? With Hyliion delivering their effing Christmas tree, which they'll continue to do that for, what, a few $100 or a few $1,000. Here you go, Hyliion. Here, just throw that on the pile, you know. But they will delist them. That there's no like, hey, you deliver our Christmas tree, but you can go ahead and hang out at 90 cents a share. It's not going to work that way. And they got a lot of work to do. They do. I have confidence that if they're going to pull this magic act off, that they absolutely will. And I think that the maximum potential of profit will be rendered for those share owners that saw it through. It's just that simple. Not losing sleep over it. I'm just disappointed in the performance. I mean, every day, every week, every month goes by for the last 3 years, and absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. No movement on prior relationships. The story has changed so much. I think Dave said it best here. Hyliion's talking about stationary Carno too much lately. It makes their direction very confusing. I totally agree. Dave thinks like me. He's just a regular guy, rational thinker, has common sense actually coming out his ears, and one of the very few guys on social media brave enough to scrutinize this company. For me, it's easy as hell. It's easy as hell, and it's all justified. You can kiss my ass if you think it's not. You know, it is absolutely justified right now. There are answers that are due to share owners. And I hope that they provide that to the investor base. I wish I could go. I actually wish I could go, not to scrutinize Hyliion, because I could think up some doozies. And one of them would have a lot to do with the OEM integration and the disparity between the current cash burn and the operating expenditures, which right now sit at about $150 million per year, about a 35 million or so burn rate per quarter. That's incredible. And to Silent Alert's point on the low end, at 3,000 units per year. I actually think it's more up around the 4,000 mark now to actually make some level of generating capital. I think a capital raise is inevitable way before that mark. If we are approaching break even, Hyliion is absolutely going to go through a massive capital raise, but they can't do that now. That's why they're shitting their pants on this current stock price and saying, oh God, man, maybe we should have paid more attention to it. We let this bitch slip all the way to oblivion. Now we can't raise capital. Now, if we burn this capital in the next year and a half, 2.5 years tops, right? They're going to be stuck and not have access to capital and have a stock price in the shitter. They're going to get delisted. They're going to reverse stock split the stock. And all of us that are holding 20,000 shares are now going to end up holding 200 shares because they've done 100-for-1 split and split the stock and put the share float to 50,000 rather than 271 million or 170 million, wherever it is now, which is a pretty tight float. But it's not really that attractive of a float at $1.80 a share, or $1.65 or a share, or whatever bullshit price it's at right now. But I agree with you. It's damn confusing on what the hell they're doing. They need to make up their mind. They need to focus, and they need to make sure that the SKUs that they're checking or their verticals that they're pursuing actually have an end game to them. I just think that I have a feeling that they're pushing out all of these products with the hope of selling them in the open market without any prospecting whatsoever to understand whether or not the industry even wanted this in the first place, right? Is the incentives going to be enough? Is the mandates going to be enough? Thomas Healy speaks about a genuine push toward electrification. I believe that to be somewhat genuinely true. But I don't trust Thomas Healy at this point. Yeah, I don't. I don't. Not until he can win it back. And I speak for a large group of share owners. Let me be fair. I just speak for myself. A lot of share owners out there love the guy, think he's just absolutely 100% trustworthy. Me, I think he acts like a CEO. I think he acts like a CEO should. I think he should display confidence in all weather, and he certainly does that. That doesn't mean that I have to trust him in all weathers. That doesn't mean that I have to believe that the Carno is going to be the technology of the future. All right. Can I get excited about it? Sure. Show me something. All right. The ERX is supposed to launch in 2023 based on this funny little hat here that's cost me tens of thousands of dollars to wear with pride, right? During my monthly video, the $50,000 worth of free content that I've pushed through for the company on free advertising. Where has that got? Nowhere. The stock is trading at $1.65. Show me something. Show me something. Shake something up. And I think that's what it kind of was about this quarter. But who's to say where this story goes? We're probably emerging from the ice age that I speak about, and I think we'll probably all reflect back on this time and actually laugh a little bit on where the stock was, and not kicking ourselves for not buying more. I look across the landscape, and I presume that retail investors are buying a couple stocks right now. The number one stock that people are probably pouring into right now because it's such a good value is Nvidia. Nvidia is trading at about 180 PE right now. Forward sales of about 85 right now. Nvidia is basically been anointed the AI king going forward. They report next week. I'm interested to understand how that shakes out, but I find it ironic how a company like a Hyliion or an Aduro, which with such deep value and anemic valuations as far as their market cap goes, um, in compared to the actual penetration that they can make in their respective markets. I think the two are completely different universes. And if you asked 9 out of 10, if you asked 99 out of 100 investors, which stock would they rather own, they would say Nvidia. And oh, what's the other stock? They would have no idea. So invest how you will. It's totally up to you. I'll continue to own Nvidia through the indexes. I don't own it as a single stock, nor do I own Netflix. I just don't believe in their business. I believe that they spend way too much for content. I'm just not playing ball, and I put Tesla in the same category. I'm not a proponent of the Tesla product. I believe it's a lot more discretionary than people give it credit for. I don't think it appeals to the masses. I really don't. And until they can do that and really provide me some insight, you think competition is coming for Hyliion and don't think competition is coming for Tesla, you're in for a rude awakening. You really are, because some of these EVs that some of these companies like BMW, Audi are coming out with are phenomenal products. Alan, good evening to you. Great to have you in the live stream, my brother. Appreciate you. Victor's in the house. Good evening to you. Appreciate you guys staying with me. Very cool. Got JBJ in the house. Good evening to you, my friend. Welcome. Got Justin's in the house. Proper 19. Fantastic. Good to have you, brother. Classes in session. I don't know about that. I don't know. I throw a few curse words in between the lessons and hope I get under your skin a little bit. But I'm, you know, my techniques have been known to work. That's for sure. I saw the coolest comment come through the channel tonight, and it was actually it was a really cool comment. It was a very nice comment. It was like finding the independent investor channel. It was from Tim. Tim's with the channel. He was like subscriber, I don't know, number 12. And Tim's been with the channel for a long, long time. He said it's like winning the lottery. He said he started, and I remember when he started, he actually reached out to me, and we actually spoke, which I've done with for hundreds of people. People don't really understand that, and they think I'm just some funny guy who's not very articulate and says a lot in my live stream, and he's a dork, and they should unsubscribe. What they don't see is that I absolutely have um, affected a lot of people. And if I gave a little spark, great. That's the only piece that I maybe take a little credit for. Tim did it all himself. We talked about what could potentially make sense and what he was interested in. And he's like, this is what I'm going to do, Ryan. I was like, cool, man, do it. And he's sitting on 70 grand. And it's like those changes for people, man, they're very, very real. And it would be less real if I came on and showed you some elegant graph about me kicking the S&P's ass all the time, when that's not really important. It's not really important because I can lie. I can lie and make it seem awesome. I exposed Jeremy many, many years ago for doing that very thing, about misconstruing his investing ability and capability with the money that he's bringing in through YouTube, and then conveying through YouTube that he's some sort of badass investor, when the sheer reality of it is he's a horrendous investor. He's not even an investor. He's some kind of something. I don't know. That's horrible. Horrible. The guy strikes me as a guy that's not happy at all. He comes on and apologizes half the times for his shitty trades and for, pointing people in the wrong direction. And I think it's great that people follow that. I think it's awesome. It proves my point. It's fantastic. Those same people would never subscribe to my channel. Never. I don't want them here. I'll keep my 44 on a nice, calm live stream and tell you that my TSP is up 9.68%. Why? Because that's the truth. And I know that truth is much more easily obtained by the masses than me coming on and trying to convey that my portfolio is up 386% over the S&P 500, right? When in all reality, I make really good money, okay? But I have obligations that I can't take in 100% of my paycheck and just throw it into my portfolio and just kind of eke those in there as portfolio gains. That's the secret. That's the sleight of hand, right? That's what's going on YouTube. It's insane. People don't want to talk about what is fundamentally going to get you there. And what's fundamentally going to get you there is buying diversified passive assets, ETFs, index funds, going after some dividend renderings through the dividend kings and aristocrats. You can do something like that. Pick whatever broker you want. JJE says, let's effing go. Good luck. And I'm pulling for you on that 𝑪𝑎𝑛𝓋𝑎 position. If it gets any lower than this, it might actually be a little bit optimistic to take a little stab myself in it, right? Would you consider me a 𝑪𝑎𝑛𝓋𝑎 investor if I decided to buy 100 shares of it here for $70? God dang. just crazy to imagine that that stock was up close to $90 a share just a couple of years ago. Oh man, how things can change. Isn't that crazy? This company's not small potatoes. It's 1,500 employees strong. You know, they've got a mega factory that's, if not complete, nearing completion. They've got first mover advantage, begging shareholders again uh, to um, to water down the share float. It's not really cool, but you know, they seem to think they need financing, and that's what they're asking for. I'm not here to scrutinize whether or not I think that's right or wrong. I think you guys know my position on this. I think it's absolutely wrong. Okay, they've fallen on hard market times. Boy, that wouldn't have been anticipated a couple of years ago to suggest, I don't know, maybe we need to be a little bit more aggressive with our opportunity. And I'm not just talking nickel, I'm talking Izon and Hyliion as well, you know, to be a little bit more aggressive with the opportunity that they had at the time. I think they had up over 600,000 or 600 million in cash, and now we've burned it all the way down. We're less than 100 million in cash. Long-term and short-term investments will really beef up that capital position, but I don't think they're as strong as they lead on. I really don't. I think if anybody's going to pull them through, it's going to be John Panzer, but because I really like him as a CFO, but I just don't know if they've got the goods. I don't know if there's just too much reliance on others to ensure that their success is rendered. And you know, in the case of Nikola, they just burned so much capital. What a crazy waste of money. You know, the amount of capital expenditure that they have for the amount that they're bringing in house is alarming. It is staggering, and quite frankly, somewhat embarrassing. And I could say the same for Hyliion too, if you want to be all fair about it, you know, because I know you're a Nikola bull. And Matt's in the house. Good evening to you. Great to see you, my friend. Very cool. Music recorder. I think he's got probably a deep comment. Success in investing isn't about beating the market. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I wish for every one person like myself, there's very few out there that don't eat from the forbidden fruit and buy into this idea that appealing to people on YouTube, as long as you pump out daily videos and you can appeal to people and yell and scream at them and be a moron, act like you're all coked up all the time, you'll get people's attention, no doubt about it. You'll bring people in rogues, and they will listen to you, no doubt about it. I You guys know I've admitted to you I spend very little time watching YouTube. I'll watch my replay again because I think I'm really good. I fine tuning my approach, et cetera. But I don't really watch anybody else. I deploy my program. I see that it works, and I know that it works for others because I get reciprocation back. What else do you want? What else do you want? Wealth building is just that. It's wealth building. All right. You want to come on and try to copy my program because I make a little bit with my side hustle and I pose as if that's somehow portfolio gains. Good luck to you. I'm gonna tell you not to do that, okay? Because it's just not, it's not true. All right. The second that you can look in the mirror and ask yourself what you can do, what it is that I can do that makes sense for me, what is it that makes sense for me in relation to my current income, and how is it that based on my current income, I can expect to be in a better place tomorrow? Until you start asking those questions and stop relying on everybody else, that 90% are just full of shit anyway, right? The better off you'll be. It's about meeting or beating your goals in the time frame you set for your goal. So Warren Buffett talked about this, your earning capability, um, your ability to set forth a skill in this life. In other words, if you were taken out of the equation, let's say you were too hurt, right? Could you still have the ability to generate capital in the way that you generate capital now doing what you're doing? I think a lot of people could take a hard look at what it is that they do. And I think it's a scary proposition to operate under those premises. I really do. And Tanis is in the house. Good evening to you, my friend. Very cool stuff. Got Viper, got Jamie's in the group. He's a Viper. He's always been with us and always will be. Jamie's part of the family. Good stuff. Great to see you, my friend. Great to see you. Part of the community, man. Good stuff. Steve's in the house. He's got the WRX, so he must be a Subaru fan. Good evening to everyone, he says. Fantastic. Getting to the end of the live stream. This was really the fastest 60 minutes. I didn't really talk about anything tonight. I'm going to make sure I got all the comments tonight. You guys took the time to come in here. Cashews offers e-trade as well. So that's very cool. I had heard that before. So thank you very much. It gives some people some options for the broker that they choose. So you can get a hold of some shares of that company if you like that. Okay. That gives you that option. That's really cool. Let's become Hyliion Karens because we absolutely have to, for sure. I'd like to speak to the manager. Yeah. Hyliion's practical approach might not be what the market wants. I just don't know if there was the rigor of, the R&D. I talk about the analogy of, when you go out and the gold diggers, they go out, they don't just start digging for gold, right, Dave? They prospect for the gold, and they can strategically allocate their resources toward those areas where they know that there's inferred resource in the ground. And I'm just not sure what in way of research Hyliion did to determine that this really awesome idea is going to just penetrate. Now, I'm being more critical now because I just haven't seen the results. I know that this technology can work, and so do you, right? It's been happening in the maritime community for ages and years, and lithium-ion batteries and battery management systems are integrating into the maritime industry at the same rigor as over the road. So it's exciting to see these, coming into both of these massive industries. But to your point, I just can't put my thumb on the pulse of where the need and where the want and where the desire are. I cannot put my thumb on the pulse of where the loyalty is going to lie in reaction to the ACT, ACF mandates that are coming. What is it going to mean? Is it going to be just like every other mandate that comes out in this country that, half of the country follows it and the other country says, to hell with you, we'll just move to our state and you don't have to comply? You know, what does it mean for the 13 states that do comply with ACT or ACF and the other states that don't? What is it going to mean? You got to go around Colorado? I just don't know. I just don't know. Perhaps maybe we're a couple years premature of even talking about any type of anything material happening with this opportunity. I think if I was going to just offer a quick response in a way that maybe brought this home, the few videos that I have seen, I think it was Robbins actually. He's a rep with Hyliion. Some of the lesser known reps that I think that they've hired on, some of the military vets. I think he's the VP of sales, I believe. He's really, really quite good. He was in the ACT video or ACF video. And they were standing outside in front of the Hypertruck ERX, and the ACT was discussing how it checks a lot of the boxes that ACT expects from a rig. And that's what I would point back to, is that the ERX is very, very real. Whether or not it remains a concept or not, okay, we can debate that as gentlemen, and suggest that it's either not or is going to have its place in Class 8 trucking. But it exists. It exists. The question is, does it perform at the rigor that it is being projected to perform under? And even with that performance, to your point, does the market care? Right? Does the risk and the cost associated with taking on new technology that, yes, apply for a $40,000 credit, you're still in at 390 for the truck. Okay, that 40 is a wash as far as I'm concerned. They're just going to put a 425 tag on it, and they're going to sell the trucks for 485. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to place that savings back to the fleets that are actually purchasing the vehicles. But once they get these vehicles in hand, you know, is it going to perform? Is it going to provide the long-term TCO? Is it going to be a wash? Is it going to cost them money? In other words, is this change to electrification going to hurt the bottom line of industry? And if it does, we're going to have a war on our hands. We're not going to have a fleet that's just going to sit back on their haunches, that's been built up and advocated for and lobbied over for the last 150 years, right? Probably 100 years, right? They're not going to sit idly by and put these technologies to work. Now, if they work, that's a different story, which I believe that the Hypertruck has a pretty good shot of being introduced into the fleet trials later on this quarter. And that's going to be cool for me to see is, you know, is the truck going to be able to really withstand the rigor of Class 8? Is it going to perform in the manner that is being projected for the fleets? And if it can, I think we've got something really, really special here. And I think it's going to be sitting back and watching how Hyliion deals with an influx of an order queue in the tunes of thousands. I absolutely do. Dave, crazier things have happened in the stock market. And I actually believe that we're in this to incur that crazy time. I really do. I'm 100% convicted with all of my criticism, with all of my scrutiny over Thomas Healy not providing transparency now, when it's quite honest, he doesn't want to. All right. I don't know this man. If I talked to him directly behind closed doors, I'd let him know. I'd let him know that I'm displeased, and he could tell me why I shouldn't be displeased for reasons A, B, and C. Right. But I've always contended that 2023 is going to be that bridging year. So I'm not really that excited about making it something more exciting that I deemed last year was going to be just what it's shaping up to be this year. In other words, what are we surprised? It's the same old Hyliion. I kind of tweeted that this week when I was being my same old, same old smartass to try to kind of put that out there and be like, nothing's changed. Credibility is gone. You know, the trustworthiness of this company is kind of out the window, and I'm 100% true on that. If they provide and get back some of that credibility, no problem. I'll be fair and say, look, they're earning back credibility with me right now, but I'm not going to say that they've earned my credibility back. Not at this juncture. No way. They haven't earned it. You got to earn it with me. It's that simple. And in the meantime, I'll chalk this up as being, a potentially very disastrous investment. If this thing goes to zero, I'm not just going to be like, that hurts. It's a situation that I tweeted tonight that you should avoid like the plague as an investor. Speculative investing is not for everybody. The risk to reward is high on both extremes. And I don't think it's a game that the masses need to be playing. I think the masses need to be playing a game that, Warren Buffett suggested that all people can play and for the most part, find success in. Guys, I really appreciate you tuning into the live stream. We're past minute 60 here. That was super fast tonight. I appreciate you spending your time with me. I would send you on your weekend and ask you to have a good time, be safe, and we will catch you next Friday on the Independent Investor Channel live stream, fast as 60 minutes on YouTube.